A man kneels on a stone floor in a converted brick factory. His knees have worn through the fabric of his trousers. He is 23 years old and weighs less than 40 kilos. He has not spoken his own name aloud in 11 months. Around him, other men lie on bare concrete. Some breathe, some do not. He cannot always tell the difference. The smell reaches him before anything else each morning. Smoke from the chimneys, thick and sweet in a way that turns the stomach. He has learned not to look at the chimneys. He has learned not to ask what they burn. He has learned that survival here follows rules nobody speaks aloud. Work when they tell you. Do not look at the guards directly. Do not speak unless spoken to. Do not ask about the columns that walk toward the river each evening. And never, under any circumstance, volunteer for a transfer to the other bank. The guards who run this place do not use gas chambers. They do not use firing squads as standard practice. They kill with knives, hammers, and their hands. And they are not German. This camp will consume more than 80,000 lives. Serbs, Jews, Roma, Croats, Bosnian Muslims, all of them. The man on the floor will spend 44 months inside it. Whether he walks out is a question this story will answer last. April 1941. The Wehrmacht crosses the Yugoslav border from 3 directions. Germany strikes from the north, Italy from the west. Hungary and Bulgaria close the remaining exits. Belgrade falls on the 6th day after Luftwaffe bombers flatten the city center. The Royal Yugoslav Army, fragmented and outgunned, surrenders on April 17th. The Kingdom of Yugoslavia ceases to exist in less than 2 weeks. From the wreckage, Hitler endorses a new state. It calls itself the Independent State of Croatia, the NDH. Its leader is Ante Pavelić. He has spent a decade in Italian exile plotting this moment. Mussolini sheltered him in Rome and Bologna. Italian intelligence trained his militia in camps along the Adriatic coast. His movement, the Ustaše, combines fanatical Croatian nationalism with fascist ideology. Pavelić does not answer to Berlin the way other puppet leaders do. Hitler gives him a degree of autonomy unusual for an occupied territory. That autonomy will prove catastrophic. The NDH holds 6.7 million people. 2.2 million of them are Orthodox Serbs. 45,000 are Jewish. The Roma population numbers roughly 30,000. Pavelić's interior minister, Mile Budak, announces the policy publicly. He does not whisper it in closed rooms. He declares it in speeches and in the press. 1/3 of the Serbs will convert to Catholicism. 1/3 will be expelled. 1/3 will be killed. That arithmetic requires infrastructure. Within weeks of taking power, the NDH passes racial laws modeled on Nuremberg. Serbs are banned from walking on pavements in certain cities. Jewish businesses are confiscated. Roma are declared racially inferior and stripped of citizenship. Serbian Orthodox churches are demolished or forcibly converted to Catholic use. The Ustaše do not wait for camps to begin the killing. In the summer of 1941, militia units sweep through villages across Bosnia and the Krajina. They kill with axes, pitchforks, and hunting knives. They throw bodies into the limestone karst pits of Herzegovina. Entire families disappear into those pits. Men, women, children. German soldiers stationed in the region file formal complaints to Berlin. Italian officers in Dalmatia are appalled by what they witness. The Italians begin sheltering Serbian and Jewish refugees in their occupation zone. Even within the Axis, the Ustaše are considered excessive. In August 1941, construction begins on a string of camps along the Sava River. 5 sites spread across 80 square miles of marshland. The location is deliberate. The marshes isolate the camps from observation. The river provides a disposal route for the dead. The nearest railway line runs directly to the main gate. The largest site sits beside a village called Jasenovac. The man on the brick factory floor is Egon Berger. He arrived in the autumn of 1941. He was brought here because he was Jewish. He carried nothing with him. The guards took his belongings at the gate. They took his shoes, his coat, and his identification papers. They gave him a number and a colored badge. What he will witness over the next 4 years, he will carry for the rest of his life. Most concentration camps during the Second World War industrialized murder, gas chambers, rail logistics, bureaucratic efficiency. Jasenovac did not operate this way. The Ustaše who ran Jasenovac killed with tools, knives, hammers, axes, lengths of wire. They burned prisoners alive in the brick factory ovens. Some inmates received drugs before cremation. Others did not. The difference was not mercy. It was convenience. The guards designed a weapon specifically for the killing. They called it the Srbosjek, the Serb cutter. A curved agricultural blade, 12 centimeters long, mounted on a leather glove. It was originally built for cutting wheat sheaves in the fields. At Jasenovac, it cut throats. A guard could wear it through an entire shift without setting it down. That was the point of the design. Prisoners received colored badges on arrival. Yellow for Jews, blue for Serbs, red for communists. Roma received no marking at all. They were cataloged but not classified. There was a hierarchy even inside annihilation. The daily routine was designed to break the living before killing them. Prisoners woke before dawn to the sound of a metal bar struck against a rail. They carried bricks, dug drainage trenches, and cleared marshland with hand tools. The work served no military purpose. It existed to exhaust and degrade. Rations were a bowl of thin soup and a piece of bread that weighed less than 200 grams. Clean water was almost impossible to find. Dysentery killed as many prisoners as the guards did in some weeks. Many survived less than 3 weeks after arrival. Those with useful trades, cobblers, tailors, carpenters, blacksmiths, lived longer. The guards needed boots repaired and uniforms mended. Usefulness was the only currency that bought time. What made Jasenovac different from other camps was not scale. It was intimacy. The killing was personal. Guards looked into the faces of the people they murdered. They knew many of their victims by sight. And the camp's overseers did not answer to the SS. They answered to Vjekoslav Luburić. Luburić was an Ustaše commander who had trained at the German concentration camp Sachsenhausen. He studied German methods and then abandoned them for something he considered more effective. He told his subordinates that Jasenovac should be a place of terror. He wanted the name itself to become a weapon. When Serbian villages heard the word Jasenovac, he wanted them to surrender without a fight. Luburić ran the entire NDH camp system, but there was one subordinate whose cruelty would surpass even his. A man who wore the robes of a Franciscan friar. His name was Miroslav Filipović, born in Jaki, Bosnia, in 1915. He joined the Franciscan order at the Petrovac Monastery in 1938. He was ordained as a priest in 1939. Before his transfer to Jasenovac, he participated in the massacre at Recoiled in February 1942. Ustaše militia killed over 2,000 Serbian civilians in a single day near Banja Luka. Filipović was present. Witnesses placed him at the center of the killing. By 1942, he was the chief guard of Jasenovac Camp 3. The prisoners gave him a name, Fra Satana, Brother Satan. Filipović presided over mass executions at the Gradina killing site across the Sava River. Gradina sat on the opposite bank, shielded from the main camp by water and trees. The guards marched prisoners across a wooden bridge to the killing ground. The bridge creaked under the weight of the columns. Most who crossed that bridge did not return. After the war, Pavelić admitted to killing roughly 100 prisoners with his own hands. He estimated that 20 to 30,000 died under his direct command. He described how prisoners stood in prepared trenches. Each was killed with a sledgehammer blow to the skull. The bodies fell forward into the earth already dug to receive them. The Franciscan order expelled him in October 1942. The Catholic Church did not excommunicate him. He continued to wear his clerical robes while overseeing the killings. According to survivors, he sometimes wore them during the acts themselves. The cross hung from his neck while he worked. Prisoners reported that he blessed the dead after killing them. Egon Berger was in Camp 3 during Pavelić's command. He watched. He recorded. He survived by repairing shoes, a skill that made him temporarily useful. Every morning he saw the columns walking toward the river. Every evening, the columns were shorter. He counted the faces he recognized. Each day there were fewer, but usefulness at Jasenovac was borrowed time. And a German general stationed in Zagreb was about to see for himself what borrowed time looked like. Edmund Glaise von Horstenau was no humanitarian. He was a member of the Nazi Party, an SA Gruppenführer, a military historian who had served in the Austro-Hungarian army during the First World War. Hitler appointed him plenipotentiary general to Croatia in April 1941. His job was to oversee the NDH on Berlin's behalf. He arrived expecting a functioning puppet state. Within weeks, he began sending reports that nobody wanted to read. On June 28, 1941, he wrote to the German High Command. He described the Ustaše as Tobende Wahnsinnige, raging madmen. He reported mass killings of Serbian civilians across the countryside. Villages emptied, churches burned with congregations locked inside. Rivers clogged with bodies floating downstream into Serbia. Serbian fishermen along the Danube pulled corpses from the water for months. The bodies bore marks of knives and blunt instruments, not bullets. Horstenau photographed what he could. He kept a diary that grew thicker every week. The Croatian authorities brought him to a camp. Not Jasenovac. They knew better than that. They brought him to a cleaned-up facility meant to impress. It did not matter. He saw through the performance. He wrote what he saw. Frightful conditions. Few men, many women and children without sufficient clothing. Sleeping on stone at night, pining away, wailing and crying. Then, the worst room. Something like 50 naked children, half of them dead, the other half dying. He told his Ustaše escort one sentence: "This is enough to make a person vomit." Glaise von Horstenau sent report after report to Berlin. He wrote to the OKW. He wrote to the Foreign Office. He met with German diplomats in Zagreb and begged them to intervene. He told anyone who would listen. The OKW did not respond. Berlin had already decided that Croatian internal affairs were Croatian business. The alliance with Pavelić was more valuable than the lives the Ustaše were taking. The killing continued. The reports piled up in filing cabinets in Berlin, unread. But there was something the general's reports could not reach. The most lethal weapon at Jasenovac was not the Srbosjek. It was not the brick factory ovens. It was the camp's policy toward children. Jasenovac was not one camp. It was a system. Moreover, Camp V, Stara Gradiška, held what no other Nazi-allied state built: a concentration camp for children. Croatia was the only Axis-aligned nation to construct dedicated children's camps. At Stara Gradiška, at Jastrebarsko, at Sisak, at Gornja Rijeka. The Jasenovac Memorial has confirmed 19,432 child victims across the system. 11,888 Serbian, 5,469 Roma, 1,911 Jewish, 164 unidentified. The youngest victims were infants. The children were taken from their mothers after the Kozara offensive in the summer of 1942. The Wehrmacht and the Ustaše swept through the Kozara mountain region in northwest Bosnia. Serbian men of fighting age were killed at Jasenovac or sent to forced labor. Women were deported to Germany as slave workers. The children, some still nursing, were sent to the camps. Mothers screamed as their children were pulled from their arms at railway stations. Guards loaded the children onto cattle wagons sealed from the outside. Many arrived at Stara Gradiška already dying of dehydration and exposure. At Stara Gradiška, the youngest prisoners slept on stone floors without blankets. Dysentery spread through the barracks within days of each new arrival. Guards withheld food as routine punishment. Some children were beaten. Some were starved. Some were poisoned with contaminated food. Some simply disappeared into mass graves at Gradina across the river. No records were kept of individual deaths. The children were not considered worth documenting. The midpoint question is not what happened to these children. The question is this: who tried to save them, and what did it cost her? In Zagreb, 60 miles north of Jasenovac, a woman heard what was happening. Her name was Diana Budisavljevic. She was Austrian, born in Innsbruck in 1891. She had married a Croatian surgeon, Dr. Julia Budisavljevic. She moved to Zagreb in 1919 and considered it her home. She had 2 daughters of her own. She was not a politician. She was not a soldier. She was not a member of any resistance network or political party. She was a doctor's wife who decided that the information she had received required action. She did not ask for permission. In October 1941, she learned about children detained at the Loborgrad internment camp. She went to the camp herself to see. What she saw there ended one version of her life and started another. She launched what would become known as Action DB, the action of Diana Budisavljevic. She built a network of volunteers, doctors, priests, and sympathetic government officials. She forged connections with the Wehrmacht captain Gustav von Kotzian, who provided transport. She persuaded Professor Camilo Bressler at the Ministry of Social Affairs to authorize transfers. She convinced nuns at Zagreb convents to shelter children overnight. She bribed border guards and railway officials with food and medicine. She recruited volunteer nurses who risked execution to carry children out of the camps. In July 1942, she arrived at Stara Gradiška wearing a borrowed Red Cross uniform. She was not a Red Cross volunteer. She had no authorization to enter the camp. She talked her way past the guards. She wrote in her diary what she found there. Rooms with no furniture of any kind. Sitting or lying down on the floor were impossibly thin little children. One could already see death in each one of their eyes. The doctor said they were beyond help. She helped anyway. Between July and August 1942, Action DB moved more than 6,000 children from Stara Gradiška, Malasha, Jablanak, and Jasenovac. She transported them by truck and by train to Zagreb. She placed them with families through the Zagreb Archdiocese's Caritas organization. She kept meticulous records, names, ages, places of origin, for 12,000 children. She filled notebooks with handwriting so small it required a magnifying glass to read. She did this so the children could one day be returned to surviving family members. She understood that a rescued child without a name is still a lost child. Egon Berger, in Camp 3, knew nothing of this. He was counting days. He was repairing shoes. He was listening to the sounds that came from the Gradina bank after dark. He had learned to sleep through them. He had learned that sleeping through them was its own kind of survival. Of the 15,000 children Diana reached, more than 3,000 died during rescue or immediately after. Their bodies were too broken by the time she found them. The Ustaše killed 11 members of her team. The rest, roughly 12,000 children, survived the war. After liberation, the Yugoslav government erased her from the record. The rescue was credited to Tito's partisans. Diana Budisavljevic's name vanished for 60 years. The woman who saved 12,000 children was forgotten before the children grew old enough to ask who had saved them. August 29, 1942. The Kozara deportations have flooded the camp with thousands of new arrivals. The guards have been killing for weeks without pause. The ground at Gradina is soft with freshly turned earth. On this night, a group of guards makes a bet. Who can kill the most prisoners before dawn? A guard named Petar Brziska, a former Franciscan seminary student, takes up the Srbosjek. According to survivor testimony collected by Agon Berger, Brziska killed 1,360 people that night. Another guard, Ante Zrinosic, killed approximately 600. A third, Mile Frganovic, later admitted to killing 1,100. The competition lasted from dusk until the early hours of the morning. Frganovic gave testimony after the war. He did not hide what he had done. He spoke about it with a calm that disturbed the investigators. He described torturing an elderly Serb named Vukasin. He ordered the old man to bless the Ustaše leader Pavelić. Vukasin refused. Frganovic cut off his ears. Vukasin refused again. Frganovic cut off his nose, his tongue. The old man still did not bless Ante Pavelić. He bled to death on the ground at Gradina, silent and defiant to the end. Brzica received a gold watch and a roasted suckling pig as his prize. He was crowned King of the Cutthroats. The other guards celebrated around him. The next morning, the surviving prisoners cleaned the killing ground at Gradina. They dragged the bodies to the pits and covered them with earth. Then they returned to their barracks and waited for the next night. The Jasenovac Memorial Site has to date confirmed the names of 83,145 victims, 47,627 Serbs, 16,173 Roma, 13,116 Jews, 4,255 Croats, 1,128 Bosnian Muslims, 266 Slovenians, and others. Scholars place the total between 83,000 and 100,000 dead. The camp ran for 3 years and 8 months. By late 1944, the war was turning. The Yugoslav partisans under Josip Broz Tito were advancing across Croatia. The Wehrmacht was retreating on every front. The men who ran Jasenovac understood that evidence was a liability. What they did next was not liberation. It was destruction. Early April 1945. Soviet forces have already liberated Auschwitz 3 months ago. Allied armies push through Germany toward Berlin. In Croatia, the NDH is collapsing. Partisan units have cut the roads north and south of Jasenovac. The guards can hear artillery in the distance. Vjekoslav Luburic gives the order. Destroy Jasenovac. Kill the witnesses. Leave nothing. The Ustaše begin digging up mass graves at Gradina. They burn the bodies. They pour quicklime over the bones they cannot burn fast enough. The smoke from Gradina is visible for miles across the flatland. Farmers in surrounding villages close their windows and lock their doors. They bring new prisoners in from Lepoglava and Sarajevo, and they kill them too. Fresh victims arrive at a camp that is already being demolished around them. In the first weeks of April, the guards murder the remaining medical staff. They kill the skilled workers who have survived 3 years on borrowed time. The cobblers, the tailors, the blacksmiths, the men whose hands had kept them alive are now a liability. On April 19th, Luburic orders full camp demolition. 2 days later, the last group of women, between 80 and 900, are executed at Gradina. Buildings are dynamited. Guard towers are burned. Crematoriums are dismantled brick by brick. The brick factory where Egon Berger once knelt is rigged with explosives. The Ustaše intend to leave nothing but scorched earth. The 1,073 male prisoners still alive in Camp 3 know what comes next. Egon Berger is among them. April 22nd, 1945. The morning is clear. The prisoners have organized in secret over the previous days. Units of 10. Each unit has a task. Some will attack the guard posts. Some will cut the wire. Some will create a diversion. Some will simply run and hope. A communist named Ante Pavelić coordinates the plan. He is 24 years old, from the Dalmatian town of Sinj. He's been inside Jasenovac since 1942. He knows he will probably die in the attempt. He has decided that dying at the wire is better than dying on his knees. The signal comes at 10 in the morning. Pavelić shouts. 600 prisoners charge the gates. They attack the guards with bricks, with planks, with their bare hands. They smash through windows. They tear through wire with bleeding fingers. The Ustaše open fire with machine guns from the watchtowers. Men fall in the first 30 meters. Pavelić is among the first to die. He falls near the gate he organized the charge to breach. Brothers Mate and Stjepan Sukolo run side by side through the chaos. The crowd separates them. Stjepan does not make it. Mate does. He reaches the marshland beyond the wire. He runs until the gunfire fades behind him. Those who made it past the wire faced the marshes. The ground was soft and treacherous. Some men sank to their waists in mud. Others hid in the reeds along the Sava until nightfall. They lay flat in freezing water and listened to the guards searching the banks. Partisan scouts found the first survivors the following morning. They were barefoot, bleeding, and unable to speak. Some had run more than 15 kilometers through open country. Of the 600 who charged the gate, roughly 100 survived. The rest were killed in the field, in the marshland, or at the wire. The guards murdered the remaining prisoners who had not joined the breakout. They burned the bodies along with the last standing structures. By nightfall, Jasenovac was smoke and rubble. When Tito's partisans reached Jasenovac in early May 1945, they found ruins, soot, smoke, and the dead. The ground was black for acres in every direction. Metal tools lay scattered across the Gradina site. The Sava River ran gray with ash. The partisans ordered the area sealed and began documenting what remained. Soviet and Yugoslav camera crews filmed what they found. The footage would not be widely seen for decades. After the war, some of the men who ran, Jasenovacs, were found, not all. Miroslav Filipović, Frasotona, was captured by Yugoslav partisans. He was tried, convicted of war crimes, and sentenced to death. On June 29, 1946, he was hanged in Zagreb. He was 31 years old. He wore his Franciscan robes to the gallows. He showed no remorse at trial. The witnesses who testified against him had to be restrained. He did not ask for forgiveness. Ante Pavelić escaped. He fled through Austria to Italy, sheltered by sympathetic clergy. Catholic priests helped him reach Argentina through the Vatican rat lines. He lived in Buenos Aires under his own name, without hiding. Juan Perón's government welcomed him. He served as a security advisor to the Argentine president. He later moved to Spain under the protection of Francisco Franco. He died in Madrid in 1959 from wounds sustained in an assassination attempt 2 years earlier. He was never tried. He never expressed regret for what the NDH had done. Vjekoslav Luberić also fled. He reached Spain through the same rat lines. He lived openly in exile for 2 decades. He published a Croatian émigré newspaper from his home in Valencia. A Yugoslav intelligence agent assassinated him in 1969, reportedly. The killing took place in his living room. Petar Brzica, the king of the cutthroats, disappeared. Some accounts place him in Argentina. Others say he reached the United States. He was never found. He was never brought to justice. He lived out his life somewhere in the world as a free man. The survivors knew his name. The courts never found his face. Diana Budisavljevic lived quietly in Zagreb until her death in 1978. The Yugoslav government had confiscated her diary and her records in 1945. They took her notebooks, the ones with the children's names written so small they needed a magnifying glass to read. For nearly 6 decades, her name was erased from the rescue she had built. Her story was not rediscovered until the early 2000s. A Croatian film producer who shared her surname found the diary by accident at the Jasenovac Memorial. The notebooks were sitting in an archive, uncatalogued and unread. 60 years of silence ended because someone opened a box. General Glaz von Horstenau's frustration with the Ustaše drove him to treason. By 1944, he had joined the Lorković-Vokić plot to overthrow Pavelić and negotiate a separate peace with the Allies. The plot failed. The conspirators were arrested. He was removed from Croatia in September 1944. The U.S. Army captured him in May 1945. On July 20th, 1946, he killed himself at a holding facility near Nuremberg. He was 64. His unfinished autobiography contained the evidence he had tried to send to Berlin. The reports that nobody wanted to read survived him. They sit in archives now, still waiting to be fully reckoned with. Egon Berger survived. He walked out of Jasenovac alive, one of a small number of Jews who did. In 1966, he published his memoir in Croatian, 44 Months in Jasenovac. He was, according to the publisher, the only survivor who told the story in full. He did not write a literary book. He did not search for metaphors or meaning. He wrote what he saw. He wrote what he heard. He wrote what he smelled on the wind from Gradina. He wrote the names of guards and the names of the dead. He wrote it because he believed someone should. He described the sound the wooden bridge made under the weight of the columns. He described the color of the smoke from the brick factory chimneys on still mornings. He described the silence of the barracks after a night at Gradina. He wrote so that the dead would not be reduced to a number on a memorial plaque. For every 100,000 people who entered Jasenovac, one survived. Berger was that one. His niece, Ruth Bloch, spent 30 years trying to have the book translated into English. Publishers turned her away. The subject was too obscure, they said. The camp was not well known enough to justify publication. It was finally published in English in 2017, more than 50 years after it was written. 50 years for one man's testimony to cross a language barrier. The camp itself spent decades in political dispute. Yugoslav-era estimates inflated the death toll to 700,000 for political purposes. The number became a tool of state propaganda under Tito. Croatian nationalists minimized the count to fewer than 40,000. The dead became numbers in an argument they could not participate in. Politicians on both sides used Jasenovac as a weapon against each other. Neither side was speaking for the dead. During the Croatian War of Independence in the 1990s, Jasenovac became a battlefield again. Serbian forces shelled the memorial site. Croatian forces later recaptured it. The stone flower survived, pocked with bullet holes and shrapnel scars. A monument to one war's dead was damaged by the next war's living. The Jasenovac memorial site has worked to restore their names. Researchers combed through parish records, deportation lists, and survivor testimony. They cross-referenced camp documents the Ustaše failed to destroy. They interviewed the last living witnesses before time took them. 83,145 individual victims identified. Not a statistic. A list of human beings, men, women, and children, with names and histories and families who mourned them. Today, the brick factory is gone. The guard towers are gone. The barbed wire is gone. The marshland has reclaimed the ground where the barracks stood. Wildflowers grow where the trenches at Gradina were dug. A path leads to the center of the memorial. It is made of wooden railway sleepers. They are the same sleepers that once carried the trains to the camp. Visitors walk on the tracks the dead arrived on. The wood is worn smooth by 70 years of footsteps. In 1966, the architect Bogdan Bogdanović built a monument here. He called it the Stone Flower, 24 meters of reinforced concrete shaped into 6 petals. It rises from the flat Croatian plain like something that should not exist in this landscape. He was offered the camp's archives, photographs, documents, testimony. He chose not to look at them. He said that looking would have made the work impossible. He built the monument from the idea of purification, not documentation. A flower growing from poisoned ground, not an accusation, not a memorial plaque with dates, numbers, and the language of bureaucracy. A living shape that holds the weight without naming it. Inside the crypt, railway sleepers line the floor. A bronze plaque carries verses from Jama, The Pit, a poem by Ivan Goran Kovačić. Kovačić wrote it in 1943 while fighting with the partisans. The poem describes a man blinded by his captors, who still sees the world through memory. It is considered one of the great anti-war works of the 20th century. The Ustaše killed Kovačić that same year. He was 29. His words survived him. They are read aloud at the memorial every April on the anniversary of the breakout. Every year on that anniversary, survivors and descendants gather at the Stone Flower. Their numbers grow smaller each year. The survivors are in their 90s now. Soon the memorial will belong entirely to the grandchildren. Soon the last person who can say they were there will be gone. Egon Berger knelt on a stone floor in a converted brick factory. He was 23 years old. He weighed less than 40 kilos. He had not spoken his own name aloud in 11 months. He spent 44 months in a place the world chose to forget. He remembered all of it. The flower does not explain. It does not accuse. It grows. If this story reached you, carry it forward. Share it with someone who should know this name, Jasenovac. If you have not already, subscribe. There are histories the world has tried to forget. This channel exists to make sure it cannot.